My favorite people. So I entitled this one, "You Are Not Married to Money." And so even though this really is targeted towards married people, for those of us who are not married, these are great. You definitely should take notes because these are conversations that when you get into a serious relationship, that you need and should have with the person who you are in relationship with. Now, I'm not saying once you meet the man or the woman that these are some of the first questions that you ask because they're probably a little bit too intense. But some of them are not. And these are definitely discussions and conversations that we need to know. The Bible talks about being unequally yoked with unbelievers, and I believe that to be a very true scripture. However, I also believe that we need to learn how to expand that. When I say that, expand, I mean not just look at it in the context of who is in church or who's not, or who's saved and who's not, who's Baptist and who's not, or who's Presbyterian, that kind of thing. I'm looking at it from the example of who can we, in this particular example, am I married to somebody or am I going to marry somebody who we can be on the same page with when it comes to finances? Let me also clarify that by saying when it comes to money, typically when I counsel couples, when I deal with couples, it's never two people, very seldom, not never, very seldom that you have two people who are exactly the same when it comes to money. Typically, what happens is I categorize people into two categories. You typically have one person who is a spender and one person who is a saver, and both of them have positives and negatives to them. So neither is all positive and neither is all negative. But spenders and savers typically balance each other out when we learn how to work together. So when I say unequally yoked, I'm also not saying that two savers should get together. It's happened again. It's very rare that it happens, but it does happen. It actually creates a pretty interesting dynamic. The same thing with two spenders. It's very seldom that two spenders get together. Again, it can happen, and it does create a very interesting dynamic. But it also, again, because of the negative sides of being a spender or a saver, it usually then creates its own different kind of set of problems. So you want to know who you are or who the person whom you're going to marry is. So you don't want to necessarily have to be both spenders or be both savers, but you want to know, again, identify which one you are. And if you don't know, you can look through my video. I did a video on it a while ago, and I might do it again. I don't want to keep y'all forever today, but the basic gist of it is just what the name said. A saver has the capacity, or not the capacity, but the inclination to not want to spend money. If you're a saver, you don't want to spend. You want everything you think about is we need to put it up, we need to put it up, we need to put it up. And the downside to that is there are certain parts or certain aspects of enjoyment of life that you typically don't want to participate in because your sole focus is on the long term savings and not necessarily let's go out to have dinner. No, savers don't typically like to do that because a saver is usually would say something like, "Well, I can make dinner at home and we can keep that money here in the house." And so that's what a saver does. A spender, on the other hand, is someone who does not like to save. They get the money and it just kind of burns in their pocket, and they're constantly out trying to, they get a dollar, they spend a dollar, and they say things like, "I work hard, so I'm going to live. I want to go out and enjoy the things that I work hard for." Again, not a bad thing. However, because they typically don't have a good long-term view of the needs or the things that you need money to do over the course of the long run. But they provide the balance that the saver needs in order to be able to do things like every so often go out to dinner, enjoy a movie, go on vacation. Savers don't necessarily want to do that. Most savers are totally okay with foregoing the vacation in order to pay off the credit card or save, put more money into the retirement account or something like that. So you need a balance of both. That's the basic gist of it. Okay. So again, if you are Jamie Gill, how you doing? Again, they're not bad things. Neither is bad. Both have positives. Both have negatives to them. So once you identify whether you are a saver or a spender, again, there are several questions that you should ask. This list I'm about to give you is not the full length of questions or the full breadth of questions that you need to ask or discuss with your mate or potential mate. But what I am giving you is a good basis to start the discussion so you are thorough, or at least you know. Now, again, like I said a few minutes ago, the objective is to have some sort of balance in your relationship. And before you enter into this conversation, please have established that you want the honest and raw and uncut truth with one another, and that the raw, honest, and uncut truth will not be used in a negative way in the future, but is used for the purpose of gathering information, of knowing where each other is, and then thirdly, to be able to, which is the point of this discussion, make plans for the future. Your sole goal is, again, to make plans for the future. So the one thing you don't want to do, and the worst thing you could do, is hide or lie. And I actually just gave away part of what we'll talk about, one of the questions that we'll go through. Okay, so you can't do that. You cannot, when you get to this discussion, hide something or lie to during the conversation. You have to have complete and honest and total transparency. Which again, like I said, this is not a discussion you want to have on the first date. Or most of these questions are not first date questions. You can discuss in general your ideas and thought if it gets to that. But please don't, as soon as you meet the woman, fellas, start asking her these questions, because she will run. She might actually, some might find it, be glad that you asked them, but it's really just not that, Let's say, well, if the husband is a spender, wife is a saver, instead of him going to the strip club, he should just let his wife do a lap dance or install a pole in the bedroom, give her the money, keeping it. Now, I'm going to agree with you on that one, Elvira. I'm going to totally agree with you on that one. But then, even then, there should be a budget as to how much he's going to spend when he's giving the money to his wife. But that's the money mentor talking. So, yes, that is correct. All right. So, because you're, again, and I titled this, "You Are Not Married to Money," because, first of all, if you guys remember, there was a show called Married to Money. And secondly, because most of us don't go into marriage or relationships being wealthy, there are discussions that need to be had in order to ensure that we are going in together. So that's my point about the scripture saying that not to be unequally yoked. Again, you want to be in a position where you both are on the same page, where you come together and say, we both agree where we're going. Because once you agree on where you're going, then every decision that you make as a couple, comes from the agreement that you had in this conversation. Okay, so it's very important that you are open and honest and that you talk to. Also, let me say this before I get into these questions. The answers to this question can change. So you can 5 years, 10 years, 15 years down the road change some of these answers. That's perfectly okay. But if you do change them, then you almost have to come together again, let your partner know that you no longer want, agree with this or or want to make these changes, and then you all can come back together. If he or she agrees, you guys work out the compromise or whatever you want to do, and then you can move forward from there. Okay? So here we go with the questions. I got quite a few, so I hope you guys have your pen and paper handy. Some of these, again, are pretty common sense. Most of these are actually pretty common sense questions, but again, you'll find that a lot of these questions are not had, or they're had too late. They're had after both people, or if you get after the relationship is already in trouble, and after your backs are already against the wall. But if you have these up front, again, it makes unity in decision making a lot easier. It makes marriage and relationships a lot easier because you are both on the same page. You know where each other's going. As a man, he feels comfortable because he's understands what pleases his woman, and as a woman, she feels comfortable because now she understands why he's making the decisions that he's making as well. So it's a win-win for all around. All right, so here we go. Number one, again, like I said, you have to be open and honest about all of your financial goals. You have to, what's going on, Way? You have to be open and honest about all of your financial goals. So in this conversation, you need to know if your goals financially are to, whatever they are. You have to be open and honest. I'm not going to make up a scenario, but whatever you dream of, whatever your dream is to do financially, you need to be completely and transparent about that. Because if you are dating, I'll give you this example. So if you are dating, let me see, if you're dating the cashier at your local Popeyes, but your goal is, and I'm nothing wrong with the cashier, okay, but your objective is to live the life of someone who is a heart surgeon. Two totally different incomes. One makes, I think what, 10, 11, $12 an hour. One makes like $5,000 an hour. Those are two totally different lifestyles, and you need to communicate that your objective is to get to that place. And so the decisions in terms of education, in terms of if you're choosing to go back to school, to med school, all of those types of things will be based on your financial goals in life. So you want to have those discussions. You want to ask the question, what kind of home or neighborhood do you want to live in? What kind of home or neighborhood do you want? There are some people, hey Sylvia, how you doing? There are some people who prefer, a condo lifestyle because they don't want the maintenance of a home. And some people want to live, in a suburban area. Some people want to live in a metropolitan or city area. And some might even know which area they want to live in, And so because I'm from Chicago, I might have said I wanted to live in Bronzeville in a condo, 3-bedroom condo. That's going to determine how much money, excuse me, I'm going to expect it to spend on a mortgage. That's going to determine, again, like I talked about a second ago, about maintenance cost. Am I going to be responsible for cutting grass, or am I going to have an assessment with an association fee that will, because the association will take care of all that kind of stuff. It then determines, do I need multiple, am I going to be paying for parking? If in certain parts of some of your metropolitan cities, you have to buy a parking spot because parking is limited. And so if you live all of that comes into play based upon where you want to live. Then you want to talk about, like I said earlier, income expectations. What kind of income expectations do you have? Even if I do work at Popeyes and I'm the cashier, but you are expecting the person who you're with or your household to live, to be able to bring in a fictitious number, $100,000 a year, then I need to determine whether or not I need to go and get a better job or work 2 jobs, or if this is even a relationship I want to continue, because that's not the lifestyle I want to have. So you need to know, what are your income expectations for one another? Do you expect your wife or your husband to be a stay-at-home parent? And so if you do, then that if your income expectation is at a certain point, is beyond what you make by yourself, but you expect them to stay home, then we need to make adjustments to how we work, or to our career, or where we live, to be able to live the way we want to live. You also want to ask, how many vacations a year do you expect? Again, that question speaks to how we'll spend money. Because typically, you'll either budget for vacations, or most people would take, certain discretionary funds and put it towards vacation on an annual, monthly basis or bi-weekly basis, however they get paid. So you want to know that if your expectation is that we're going to take one a year, then we need to budget accordingly. If my goal is to take one a quarter, or one a month, or one every other year, or I'm okay with doing staycations one year and I want to go to some place in the Caribbean every other year. Those are all things that need to be discussed because, again, they determine how we spend, they determine what we do, they determine where we go. You want to also ask, how many children do you want to have? Because, again, children, for those of us who have them, children are not cheap. And so there are certain expenses that come with children. For example, again, you want to look at clothing and food, the size of the house that you live in, the neighborhood of the house that you live in, transportation costs. All of that can change based upon children. Again, so you want to think about that. Plus, then over the long run, you have to think about college. Are we going to save for college? Do we want them to go to what kind of schools do we want them to go to? Do we want public school versus private school? Or a lot of couples now, not a lot, but more couples are leaning towards more homeschooling. So again, that then goes back into the question of, well, if you want to homeschool, then how does that affect the income? Because you're not going to be able to, somebody's not going to be able to work because they're going to be at home homeschooling. So again, you want to have that discussion as well. Cars, what kind of car expectations do you have? Do you plan on driving a new car every other year, new car every 3 years, every 5 years, every 7 years, every 10 years? Do you not care about cars at all? When you buy a car, are you expect, what kind of car do you expect to drive? Do you expect a Mercedes every other year? Do you expect it's a little car, the little Volt, a Chevy Volt or whatever? Do you want, something like that? What kind of car? What are your expectations in terms of cars that you drive? The next question? Are you a shopper? What's your habit? I know many of men and women who spend lots of money on shoes and clothes. What's your vice? Or a lot of men in our we have toys. What's your toys? Do you ride? I ride a motorcycle. Do you ride a motorcycle? Do you play golf? Those are all expenses. And then again, and how often do you do those things? Because those are things that you have to think about again in terms of budgeting. The two things I just named, the motorcycle and golf, are not cheap hobbies to have. So, again, do you plan on buying a new motorcycle every 3 years or every 2 years, or do you play golf every week, or do you play golf 4 times a week? How much does this habit cost, or this sport, or this toy cost you on a monthly, annual basis? What else? How do you currently save money? That's a great question to ask. How do you currently save money? And is it working? So that's kind of a 2-for-1 question. Some people are, and when will have their money automatically taken out of their paychecks and put into a savings account, automatically put into their health savings account. To also have money automatically put into maybe their Roth IRA. But when I say how is it working, I say, are you constantly every month going in having to take that money out and spending it on on something because you're short on bills, or because you're not because you have too many expenses? So that's why I say, how are you currently saving, and is it working? So are you saving? Is that money able to sit there and grow, or again, are you having to constantly use fund? And every so often, that's fine. But if you're having to do that every single month, month over month, then the question is your saving method really working? And that's something we could talk about later. Okay. Next question: what debt do you have? And I mean all of it. What credit card debts do you have? What student loan debts do you have? Do you owe your second grade best friend from milk money that that he or she gave you in second grade, and you still haven't paid them back? You want to know all of that again, because that's important. That's important to know, because once you get into a relationship with someone, their credit issues become your credit issues. And no, you might not necessarily have to be the one to pay, physically pay for those items, but you will be responsible because, again, they're going to change some of the habits, or they're going to restrict some of the things that you can do in your relationship. Because if even if somebody makes $10,000 a month, but they have $11,000 a month in bills, then the income doesn't do much. Isn't doing you. Having all the income doesn't do you much if you've got those expenses that are eating away every dollar that comes into your house. So you want to know that. You want to know every single expense, every single bill, every single debt that the person who you are in a relationship has. You guys okay? You guys okay? Everybody all right? Hope everybody's okay. If I'm going, well, I'm almost done. But if I went too fast, you can always come back and review this. But again, we gotta. These are conversations we just have to have. All right. Next question. Do you have a retirement plan? And if so, what kind do you have? Do you just have a 401k at work? How much are you contributing? How is the balance looking? You want to know all those things because, again, it's once you get to a certain, once you want to retire, if you ever want to retire, then you need to know if that person is prepared, and if there's enough money there or enough savings there for you to live comfortably during retirement. Which leads to my next question: at what age do you plan on retiring? And because that all determines all of that determines by the amount of money that's saved. If you don't have enough, if you want to retire at 65, but you have no savings, and you are relying on, Social Security, then you need to know that and express that so that way you can figure out how much the Social Security is going to be, and then at that point you can determine if that's something that you're okay with, or do you want to plan to have more. And the earlier you have that conversation, that part of the conversation, the better, because it takes a while for retirement balances, unless you're depositing large sums. It can take a while for those account balances to build. So that's why you want to have those early. And I know some people are like, well, how do I know if I'm having this conversation at 25 or even 35? How do I know when I'm going to retire? Again, these are all things that can change. They can change, but having these discussions now at least lets you each know where each other is. And again, you can always make changes, and that's totally okay and it's totally acceptable. You just have to communicate the changes and then be in agreement with the changes. So you can't just make a change and say, "Oh well," but because you have another person who is in this relationship or in this discussion with you or in this marriage, then they need to be on board and know what's going on with you as well. Okay? So I talked about, do you have a retirement plan? What age do you plan to retire? I said that. And then what do you plan to do in retirement? Is your objective in retirement to just switch careers and start a business? Nothing wrong with that, but that's something that you need to know. Is your objective to just come in, to travel? Again, if you want to travel, that's great. I have someone who they retired and they bought an RV and they spend their time driving around the country in their RV. If that's what you want to do, great, that's fine. I have another person who retired and started pastoring full time, so they have, so they were properly set up, and then they also have income coming from being full time pastors. Great, that's fine, but those are all discussions again that need to be had before you choose to spend the rest of your life with someone. So those were, how many questions were that? That was like 18. Those are 18 questions that I just gave you that you need to have. And again, these are not the only 18 questions or 17 questions that you need to have. But again, these are a really good start just to find out and see where each other is. Again, you need to be equally yoked and on the same page when it comes to money. It is said that, I know why they're saying it, but whatever. It is said that money issues are one of the leading causes of divorce in this country. And again, I can argue that either way, but whatever. But it is still an issue. I can tell you that in marriage, money decisions, being on the same page with your finances makes marriage a lot easier. Again, not because it doesn't mean that even if you agree that you won't ever have issues, or that you won't ever have disagreements, but what it does is it gives you a basis or a base or a foundation, to at least come together and say, when you made this decision, I don't understand, or I didn't agree with this decision because we agreed, that this was our plan of action, or this was our plan of attack, and this was our goals, and this decision doesn't help us get to that. And so then it gives you a discussion, and it doesn't seem as though, you are attacking one another. It doesn't seem like you are, making each other feel less than, but it just says, listen, we're on the same team. We're going towards the same goal, and I don't understand how this decision helps us get to that place. So let's talk through that. And then again, if something changes, okay, great. Let's change the goal. Let's change the plan. But let's do it together. Ultimately, again, this conversation is all about honesty. I'm gonna stop dropping this. All about honesty and all about transparency. And when you are married, or when you are at the point where you are considering marrying somebody, that should be something that you are comfortable with, because again, you have chosen, or in the process of choosing this person, to walk through all of the issues of life with. So I hope those were helpful for you. This is our Financial Fridays for this week. And if you all would do me a favor, again, always, if you guys have questions, you can always put them in the comments. I'll go back and read them, or comments. You can put them there as well. But in the bottom left-hand part of your screen, there's the little guy thing with the arrow that you can share. I very much so appreciate it if you would share this with your friends and family, or if you know of a married couple, if you can tag them so they can see this and have this conversation. If not, again, I can promise you, if you guys saw some of the conversation, or could be a fly on the wall to some of the conversations I have with married couples, these questions would answering these questions honestly and openly would solve a lot of issues with them. So I can promise you this is a discussion that is very well needed. And I'll come back again and give you guys some more questions and some more discussion points to have around this area. So again, I hope you guys have a good weekend and have a good night. This is Friday. Yeah, it's Friday. So my son's birthday is Sunday. He turns 4. Oh my God, he's getting big on me. So I'm going to have a really good weekend. And I hope you guys do as well. Make sure you spend some time doing your self-care. If you're not working, if you are working, handle your business, make that money, do what you got to do. I definitely appreciate you. Again, if you have any questions, please do not hesitate to reach out to me. I will do my best to get back to you as soon as possible. Okay. Again, if you would share this video, I greatly appreciate it. Also, don't forget, Monday we're back on the air with the Woman Cave at 9:00 with I don't know what that is. Okay. On Tuesday with the Scoop. On Wednesday with the Word on Wednesday. And then, of course, you can download your copy of Nouveau Exposure at nouveauexposure.org. If you missed this week's shows, any of this week's past week's shows, you can go to blogtalkradio.com, look for Global Drive Network, and listen to those. Or go to the Global Drive Facebook page, and all of the links are on there. Or you can scroll down on this page, and do that too. Let me think. Do I have anything else? Lord, sorry. I don't know if y'all know I wrote a book. I wrote a book called How to Move Up in Your Corporate Career. So you can go to Amazon.com and grab that. I give you some very tips and tools about things that you can do to be recognized, promoted, make more money on your job. So you can always check that out. It's on Amazon.com. It's called, again, How to Move Up in Your Corporate Career by myself, Winfred Burns II. And then if you need some one-on-one help, give me a call, and I will definitely see what I can do to help you for a fee. So, all right. Hope you guys have a good weekend. Again, we're going to go out of here with Leah Joelle. Have a good weekend. I will talk to you all later. Love you. I said fee, not for free, for a fee. Oh, that's what I forgot to say. Hey, if you guys have not signed up for my mailing list, email list, then you need to do that too. Yeah, fee. If you haven't signed up for my email list, my Money Mentor email list, do that. Just send me an email, or just put your email in this in the comments, and I'll grab them off of here. But I just send out money tips. Also, I'm going to be doing another 31-day Money Mentor makeover here soon. That's free. So it's 31 days where I send you an email every day for 31 days. I give you a tool tip every day to help to make over your budget. So your budget and your financial picture. So if you want to be a part of that, again, just you can either email me at themoneymentor1@gmail.com, or you can put your email in this video, and I will add you to the list the next time. Thank you, Nicole. I got you. Elvira trying to get free stuff. Yes, thank you, Sylvia. I appreciate it. I appreciate it. All right, y'all. Have a good night. Like I said, please share. Hit the share button.